Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and not so exciting news that we have for the upcoming release of Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak on Xbox consoles and PlayStation consoles on January 20th of 2023, with the Sunbreak's expansion release being somewhere around spring of later that year. So a couple of days ago we went over the fact that this had been rumored. This was something that was presumably set to be revealed for the Game Awards, but of course it ended up being revealed officially by Capcom just yesterday as we got an official trailer and a couple of details. Now at the same time, a brand new blog update went off on the official Capcom Monster Hunter website and a couple of details as well regarding some of the features that are going to be added. And specifically, I want to go over today pretty much the one main real reason why I'm making this video, and that is the fact that Capcom pretty much hidden all the way in the details, all the way in the bottom of their official page, they mentioned that this game will not be supporting cross-play and cross saves on other platforms, specifically the Xbox Series X, Series S, Xbox One, the Windows version of the game, which is of course on PC as well, PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. Alongside that, they mentioned that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 players can match with each other for multiplayer. So pretty much, if you were hoping to being able to bring over your played save data from either the PC version of the game that you bought on Steam earlier this year, or if you're hoping to bring, of course, your save data over from the Nintendo Switch version of the game, simply put, Capcom will not let you do that. They will not let you bring over your save data. Now, this is going to be a sticking point for a lot of people, myself included. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But also, I think the more puzzling one, the most really just damning version of the news that we have today is the fact that no crossplay will be available on any of those versions of this game. So Xbox players will not be able to play with PlayStation players. Xbox players will not be able to play with Windows players. They will not be able to play with Steam players, Nintendo Switch players. The same thing can be said on PlayStation side with Xbox, Windows, Steam, or Nintendo Switch. I cannot stress enough just how much of a backwards decision this is, how outdated mentality of Capcom this really is, and it's just something that I find completely unacceptable. I usually don't tend to make videos where I complain about things. I try to be as positive as possible, but even heading into the launch of the PC release on Steam for base Monster Hunter Rise and eventually the subsequent release of the expansions for Sunbreak, I made it very clear that cross-play, at the very least, the very minimum, needed to be done for you to be able to play the Steam version of the game with the Nintendo Switch player base. At the time, my argument was a very simple one. The Nintendo Switch version of the game at that point in time, I believe, was somewhere around the neighborhood of 7 million copies sold. PC players were going to be pretty much segmented off in their own little corner, not being able to be playing with anyone else. We know that Steam already kind of locks you into a specific region. So not only are you segmented off with just PC players, which were never going to reach the same sales as the Nintendo Switch version of the game, but also because of Steam's backwards just mentality as well, you were going to be stuck with just playing either with North American players, European players, or Asian players based on whatever server you were locked into, on which whatever your IP was being pinged back from Steam. And that of course turned out to be the case when the game went live. People were complaining that they couldn't, like literally day one, they could not find people to play with, even like the base key quest to be able to progress the high rank quests, because they just simply couldn't be able to find people to play with online. They had to download a mod, a third-party mod that simply just removed that pathetic excuse of a limitation for you to be able to match in with Asian players, European players if you're in North America, or vice versa. So alone, that right out of the gate, PC players were complaining literally on day one that they couldn't find people to play with on a game that literally just had launched on PC. And we knew that the game was selling relatively well. At the very least, we know that on PC, at the very least, 1 million copies were sold on PC of base Monster Hunter Rise, and much more were sold of Sunbreak. But people still were having matchmaking issues. Now, this has not been an issue on the Nintendo Switch side of things because, of course, there's like 10 million players on the Switch. that has never really been a problem for base Rise and Sunbreak's expansion. But now with the launch of these Xbox, PlayStation, and of course Windows versions, each one of these are segmented off. Essentially, PlayStation 4 players and PlayStation 5 players will be able to play with each other. Presumably, and they haven't confirmed this yet either, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and Xbox One players will be able to play with each other. And kind of Windows players are kind of left out in the cold. Maybe they'll be able to play with Xbox One, Xbox Series X players, but again, that has not been confirmed either. So there is just no excuse for any of this whatsoever. It's 2022. We're heading into 2023. By the time this launches, it is completely unacceptable. Cross-play is pretty much a standard for every major game at this point in time, other than, I guess, console exclusives from either Sony and/or Nintendo. Microsoft still has issues with putting out exclusives, so we're just going to move them to the side for now. Every major Twitch game you have seen, probably on the front page of Twitch, all of those games have crossplay one way or another. You know, all the major games. Capcom is still treating Monster Hunter like it's some type of niche 3DS game, or back on like the PSP, PS Vita days type of thing, where it just doesn't necessarily make any sense to not have cross-play. Now, cross-saves is a little bit more convoluted. This is why originally when this news broke, I made it very clear that I'm not necessarily going to hold it against them if they don't give us cross-saves, because we literally went over a couple of developer interviews where the developers spoke about how essentially based on the way that they connect you to the servers, that was their limitation for not giving Nintendo Switch players a chance to play with Steam players. According to Capcom's excuses, essentially like the way you connect to the servers is the real limitation as to why you cannot have cross saves. The Nintendo Switch version of the game connects to different servers. The PC version connects to different servers. Therefore, and there's something about the saves, the way that it formats it. So this is how you basically end up having with uncompatible like save formats that you cannot simply just transfer over your save to another system. That was back with the Nintendo Switch and Steam versions of the game. Now they're adding essentially, I guess, 3 versions for Xbox, the Windows versions, and the 2 PlayStation versions, PS4, PS5, Windows, so that's 3, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, and Xbox Series X. So that's essentially 6 versions of different save file formats that they essentially need to make compatible with each other on top of the Nintendo Switch and the Steam version side of things. So I guess I could have probably given them a pass if they decided to at the very least give us crossplay, but they couldn't even do that. And I cannot stress enough just how disappointing this ultimately is for me personally. As someone who has been supporting the Monster Hunter franchise for years, as someone who has touted and praised Rise and specifically Sunbreak for just being so good, so much fun, this is just, I cannot fathom just the mentality behind this. I cannot really just put 2 and 2 together as to why Capcom continues to just be so backwards when it comes to this type of thing. I am a Capcom content creator, technically, I guess. I have been invited to their Capcom Creators Program, but if this is going to cost me any sort of membership with them or goodwill, so be it. But it needs to be called out. This is the type of stuff that just continually keeps happening. People on the PC were hoping and praying that they had cross saves and cross play. They didn't do it then. They're not doing it now for another major launch on the PC, Windows side of things, Xbox and PlayStation side of things as well. And the more interesting thing is that, of course, this is as of right now, as of based on the information that they provided us with, this is just going to be a digital release on Xbox and PlayStation consoles. So, of course, Windows, of course, will be just digital only. There's no actual PC games anymore, physical versions of that. But on PlayStation side of things, at the very least, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S and X, they do get physical releases. And this is just going to be a digital release as of right now. Maybe the Sunbreak version will eventually have some sort of physical bundle with like everything included, but obviously you're just hoping and wishing at that point in time. And this will be a $40 release on the base version of Rise, I should say, will be a $40 release on PlayStation 5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, consoles. But yeah, digital only, so not even Capcom is putting a lot of faith that they're going to sell a lot of copies on these, because of course it's going to be on Game Pass. So most of their, like, I guess, touted numbers, most of their ballooned up numbers, this is something that I went over in a separate video before, is that every single time someone just literally boots up a game on Game Pass, and this is also applicable to PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Premium, whatever the hell they want to call it, even PlayStation Now, it was also the same case. Whenever you boot up a game in that thing, it literally counts as a sale for the developers and publishers. This is how that kind of whole system works, which is why, service games, that's good for that kind of stuff, since they're basically reliant on microtransactions or expansions. But when it comes to like actual full-on games like this, it's not necessarily all that beneficial, since if someone just booted and played like the first, mission or whatever, the first quest, the first hunt, and then they never played again, Capcom is still going to say that they counted that as a sell, but that doesn't necessarily really count. So that is how they massage the numbers. So ultimately, this feels a little bit kind of just bizarre that they're choosing to go about ignoring crossplay and cross saves once again from two major releases on Xbox and PlayStation, something that players have been asking for quite a while. And you have to remember now, there's 11 million players who have played base Rise on on Nintendo Switch and on the PC side of things on Steam, and 4 million who have played Sunbreak. None of those people, I would be willing to bet, none of those people are interested in actually starting all over again, because they already put in the work on another version of the game. And you don't want to do anomaly investigations all over again. You don't want to do the grind again all over again for no good reason. Let me bring over my save to the Xbox version of the game. I have no problem with that. Let me bring over my save to the PlayStation 5. I'll happily buy it again. I have no problem with that. But the fact that they're limiting us even in that regard and not cross-play, that is just completely unacceptable at this point in time. So I certainly wanted to bring this up as a discussion topic. I certainly want to hear everyone's feedback on this, because it's just, people need to talk about this more. I know Capcom isn't going to budge. They didn't budge for the PC version. They're not going to budge now. But it needs to be talked about so we can finally get some actual change. Maybe for the next mainline game. But I also remember hearing people say for World and Iceborne, hey, Capcom, maybe for the next game, you should give us crossplay. You should give us cross saves. And here we are in the next game, and they still chose to still keep it completely backwards and not provide modern solutions to modern problems. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.